What's good, YouTube? I'm walking to a friend's house right now. Check this out. At Michelin, only at Michelin can you buy 4 for the price of 3. Look at that. Napa shocks and struts. Only at Michelin. Ha! 3 and 4. Yeah! That number combination's everywhere. Isn't life so deliciously ironic? St. Patrick's Day is almost upon us. Aye. And if you're strutting through a field of clovers this St. Patty's Day, are they 3-leaf clovers or are they 4-leaf clovers? How many corners on the globe are there? There's north, south, east, and west. Which by my calculations, that would mean 4 corners. Huh. How many seasons are there? Summer, fall, winter, spring, repeat. Okay, that means 4 seasons. In fact, YouTube, the very same hospital I was born in has 4 garage doors on the side of it. Out of those 4 garage doors on the hospital, on the side of it, there were 2 of them, 2 separate doors that have a number. One door has a 3, the other one has a 4. I worked at Wendy's for 4 years before I was wrongfully terminated. And my clock-in number at Wendy's was 4. But the 3rd year I was working there, they changed it. You basically entered the last 4 digits of your social security number into the computer. And once it was saved into the computer, all you had to do was bleep, scan your thumbprint and you were good to go. That's how you clocked in. Yeah. Now, I had this cute girl I had a crush on in high school, and I felt bad for crushing on her because at the time I didn't learn things like social class and shit like that. But anyway, this girl I used to have a crush on in high school, she used to work at Hooters, and she was in a Hooters beauty pageant, and she wanted to win, you know. And there was this pre-contest thing before the actual pageant, and on her Facebook page it said, "Vote for me here." So I voted for her every day until that little pre-thing was over. And then I screamed to the universe. I says, let her win that beauty pageant. And guess what, YouTube? After screaming to the universe for her to win that beauty pageant, she did. Oh yeah, she did. And the photo she posted to Facebook, man, she looked like she was having the time of her life in that photo, man. She looked so fucking happy. I was just like, ah, you know. But here's where things get a little bit coincidental. Okay, when she posted a photo of herself in a bikini from the contest, she was standing next to this other girl who was also wearing a bikini. Now, the girl in question who won the contest was wearing a green bikini, and the girl she was standing next to was wearing a black bikini. I'm like, all right, black and green, my 2 favorite colors. That's a coincidence. But then the girl in the black bikini, she had a little 3 pinned to her bikini bottom. And the contestant winner herself had a 4 pinned to her bikini. I'm like, okay, that's my clock-in number at work. That was, you know, life is kind of cool sometimes, you know, how the universe plays out irony like that, you know? Yeah. If I met Casper's girlfriend Wendy, she likes to blow. And you know, when I had screamed at the universe, let her win the beauty pageant, and seeing that she actually did win the beauty pageant, I felt less guilty about crushing on her in high school. But as it turns out, I know for a fact that the girl who won the beauty pageant is a huge, I don't know if she's a huge fan, but she does like the show Bob's Burgers. And I'd have to agree with her on that. That show is pretty fucking funny. But there was one particular episode of Bob's Burgers I remember called Hawk and Chick, where Bob Belcher and his kids have to do voiceover acting for a Japanese audioed movie. And Linda talks to her daughter Tina, and she goes, "So Tina, how many parts for the movie do you have?" Tina goes, 3. Linda Belcher says, "Well, 3 is a good number. I have 4," and they go back and forth with it. I'm like, what? Not only that, but the girl in question has 6 letters in her first name. The Atlanta Falcons lost in the Super Bowl, which, yeah, that sucks, but at least they made it to the Super Bowl, so I'm at least happy for that. But the Atlanta Falcons lost by 6 points, and the winning team scored 34 points. That's 3-4 for the win. And not only that, YouTube, not only that, but the football team who won the Super Bowl also won their 4th Super Bowl ring. And it's just weird how life can do that sometimes, you know? And even if I wanted to forget about that girl I used to have a crush on in high school, it's hard, YouTube. Because when life is pulling shit like that, you can't forget. It won't let you, you know? I can remember one day when I was working at Wendy's, and when they shout, "What's your chicken count?" they're asking somebody in the kitchen, both on front and drive, to check how much chicken they have, so they know if they need to put down more or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Well, one day it was pretty standard, you know, they shout, one of my ex-managers, I should say, shouted, "What's your chicken count?" And someone shouts back, 3 and 4, and then, and then YouTube, not a second after they'd shouted out the chicken count, "What's your chicken count?" 3 and 4. Then someone called a customer from the lobby to get their order. And I shit you not, the customer in question, she had the same exact name as that girl I had a crush on in high school. And I just stood there washing trays like, come on, man. Irony is one of the grander things in life, YouTube. Irony is truly a grand thing. And you know, ever since she won that beauty pageant, you know, I see the number combination popping up everywhere. Almost like the number 23, like that movie, kind of like that, you know, you start seeing it everywhere. You know, if your town's big enough, you're gonna have a 3rd and a 4th Street guaranteed. Every car and truck has 4 tires. Every truck has a 4x4 or a 3x4, you know. If you're in a zombie apocalypse, you're gonna want C4. Those are some handy explosives to have in the zombie apocalypse if it should happen. You know, it's just cool seeing a coincidence like that. You know, it's surreal, YouTube. And then the Super Bowl before this one, I think the football team in the last Super Bowl, not the one we just had, but there was a Super Bowl prior to the one we just had, very prior to the one we just had, and the winning team had won by 4 points and literally won their 4th Super Bowl within a decade or some shit like that. And, you know, how can you ignore the irony when it's there, you know? In fact, one time, back in the day though, when I was still in high school, my stepmom would pick me up from school and we'd drive across town. We'd drive across town to go pick up my little sister from daycare. And I remember at the time, I saw this house with this gorgeous front yard and this big black dog. And me being a dog person, you know, my stepmom was taking forever to talk to the babysitter at the daycare. So to kill some time, I would literally get out of the car, walk across the street from my sister's daycare, and start petting and playing with this dog, this big black dog named Mud. And this dog was super cool, you know what I'm saying? One day, you know, I found out who the dog's owner was. My mom was taking forever to pick up my little sister from daycare at the time, as usual, and, you know, I walk across the street, I start petting the dog, and right as I'm petting the dog, the owner and her mother come up into the driveway. And who should it be, YouTube, but the very same girl I had a crush on in high school. Great. I can tell you right now that the look on her face was sheer mortified. And the look on my face, I was mortified and embarrassed too. I'm like, fuck, this is not helping my case. This poor chick thinks I'm stalking her in high school and this isn't gonna help my case. How do I explain to her that I happen to be petting your dog because I'm a dog person, and honestly, I had no idea you were living here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even stepped foot on the property, you know what I'm saying? And luckily, my stepmom had come out from across the street out of my sister's daycare with my little sister, and she said, Josh, it's time to go. And thank whatever force exists that my mom did that, because that pretty much saved me the awkward conversation of her getting out of the car and saying, what the hell are you doing at my house? Oh, I'm just petting your dog. I had no idea this was your house. Otherwise, I would not have stepped foot on the premises. Needless to say, YouTube, I never went over to that house again. If my mom took forever getting my little sister out of daycare, I stayed in the fucking car. That was so painfully awkward for me. I didn't want that chick to think I was stalking her. You know, and that whole rule, YouTube, that whole rule about not petting a stranger's dog, they mean something by that. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck. You know, I didn't know. You know, I'm naturally a dog person, you know, and it was a way for me to, you know, just whatever, you know. But that's all in the past now. Anyway, this is KingCobraJFS with another video. Catch you on the flip side, yo.